I just made these shorts and it only took me about 45 minutes. If you are a beginner sewist, this is a sewing project that you definitely want to try. Hey beautiful people, it's Gabby and welcome back to Sew Quaint. This is part 4 of the beginner sewing project series. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make pajama shorts. Because it's so versatile, you can also wear it to the beach or anywhere on a hot day, especially if you live in a country like Jamaica. If you're new here, subscribe because every week I show you how to sew something new. To cut pieces for my pajama shorts, I use the pattern from sewquaint.com that's called Elastic Waistband Shorts. It comes with a side seam pocket, but seeing that these are pajama shorts, you don't have to add side seam pockets. And I must say that you don't have to just wear these as pajama shorts. You can wear them as any type of shorts that you like. So I went ahead and I cut 2 pieces for the front, 2 pieces for the back, and 4 pieces for the side seam pockets. You want to make sure that when you're cutting your pieces, they are either right sides together or wrong sides together. And when you're cutting the side seam pockets, you're going to cut 2 pairs that are right sides or wrong sides together. To make sure that my shorts come out looking neat, I'm going to press my fabric in advance just to make sure that it's not crinkled. And I'm using my Singer iron. You can get this on singer.com. And all of my links are in the description box down below. I am using a lightweight fabric, and that's why I'm adding strips of Pellon to the outer edge of my side seam pocket pieces. So if you're using a fabric such as crepe or chalice, then you want to go ahead and do the same thing. They actually sell Pellon interfacing or fusible interfacing in pre-cut strips like this. So you can check out my Amazon storefront down below where you can make that purchase. If you don't have those strips, you could just take your regular Pellon fusible interfacing and cut the strips for yourself and press that onto the edges of your pockets. What this is going to do is to give it more structure and make it so that this area will be stronger for the stitches that we're going to add to it. If you have an overlocker or serger, then you can go ahead and finish the curves of your pocket pieces. I am using the Singer Heavy Duty 14 HD54, and if you use my code GABBY10, you can get 10% off on singer.com. These are my 2 back pieces, and I'm going to place my side seam pockets onto them. However, I first have to measure 2 inches from the top on both pieces. I'm going to take this piece and put it right sides together, right at that 2-inch mark. And the same thing will happen on this side. Now I'm going to pin the pocket pieces to the shorts. I'm going to repeat these steps on the front pieces of my shorts. When you're adding the fusible interfacing strip, it would be much wiser to measure from the top 2 inches and then place it. I did not do that at all. So there is going to be at least a 2-inch space right here that won't have any fusible interfacing, but that's okay because there's fusible interfacing on this side of the fabric. Now I'm going to use my sewing machine and I'm going to stitch along this edge here where the pockets are. At this point, if you have an overlocker or serger, you can finish the raw edges here where the pockets are. That's what I'm about to do. But if you don't, then you can always fold this and stitch it down with a 1/4 inch allowance, or you can do a French seam, or you could also just leave it raw. You could also use a bias tape or bias binding to finish the raw edge here. Raw edges are finished, and now I'm going to turn the pocket away from the shorts like this, and I'm going to top stitch the seam allowance. If you look closely, you can see my white thread running along the pocket there. This is what it looks like on the wrong side. I currently have my 2 back pieces right sides together and my 2 front pieces right sides together as well. So everything is lined up, and I'm going to be sewing along this area for both of them with a 1/2 inch allowance. If you're going to be doing a French seam, I'm going to link a video that you can watch to learn how to do a French seam. But I'm going to be using my sewing machine to sew here, and then I'm going to finish using my overlocker. I'm going in with my iron again, but this time I'm going to be pressing the seam at the center front and center back. My seams look much neater now, and I'm going to move on to the next step. So we have a front piece and a back piece. They're now right sides together, and I'm going to be sewing along here. So I'm going to stitch down to about a 1/2 inch of the pocket, and then I'm going to pivot my fabric and sew around the curvature of the pocket until I get back to about 1/2 inch within the side seam. And I'm going to keep on stitching down here, and I'm going to make sure that I backstitch at the beginning and at the end so that my stitch will be secure. And since this is already finished with a serger, I won't need to finish this raw edge with a serger again. My sides are sewn, and now I'm going to cut into the corner here. So there's gonna be a corner area where you did that right angle pivot to come from the curve down to the straight, and same thing up here. So what you're gonna do is to just cut into that corner, but you don't want to cut too much into that corner because then you might just cut your thread, and of course you don't want that. So cut very gently, and what this is going to do is make it so that you can have a right angle here instead of it being hard to manipulate. See that? This is what I was trying to avoid. That's why it's important to just use the tip of your scissors. But now I have to find a way to fix this. Let's go for a timeout. I did a zigzag stitch to cover up the cut in the fabric, but I really don't think it looks all that great. I'm gonna work with it though, because it's highly likely that this part of the shorts won't show as much once the elastic goes in and when I'm wearing it. So let's get back to the tutorial. This is the part where I sew the legs / inseam together. So I'm taking the center front and the center back, matching them with each other, and I'm going to stitch along this area. I'm gonna add a few pins for stability here, just one in the center to make sure that it's always matched the way that it's supposed to be. And then I'm gonna stitch from here to here with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. I know that a lot of you don't have overlockers slash sergers, but if you really plan to take sewing seriously, it's a worthwhile investment. You don't even have to buy a brand new one. You could buy one on OfferUp, you could buy one on Facebook Marketplace, you can buy one wherever it's sold for very, very cheap. It really helps you to be able to create professional garments. I'm now going to finish the raw edges of the legs and the waistline of my shorts. When you're doing this, you want to raise the presser foot on your overlocker, put your fabric underneath, and then lower the presser foot. Then you can start sewing. This is the best way to finish a serger stitch. When you get around to where you started stitching, you want to overlap that area. But once you've overlapped that area, you're going to raise the presser foot again, and then you're going to shift the fabric away from the needle, put the presser foot down, and keep on serging. That way, you will end up with a much neater finish than if you simply just veer off of the fabric. I'm adding this elastic to my waistline and it's going to create the waistband. This is 1.5 inches from here to here. So I am going to be measuring my waist and I'm going to cut my elastic about 4 inches shorter than my waist circumference. I'm going to stitch the ends of the elastic together by overlapping them just by about 1/4 inch. And by the way, I did not add any seam allowance to my elastic. So if you look at your shorts, you'll notice that it has 4 parts, 2 front parts and 2 back parts, which means that it also has 4 seams. So there's the center front seam, the center back seam, and there are the 2 side seams. So your shorts is divided into 4. What we're going to do is to divide the elastic into 4 as well. So we already have this back piece right here, which represents the back seam of the elastic, you could call it. So I'm using this as the first frame of reference. I'm just gonna trim this away right here. And I have my elastic folded like this. So now I'm going to mark the opposite end using my chalk. So I am just making a really small mark there, and then I'm gonna unfold it and make the mark bigger. I'm going to fold it so that I can put the mark on the other side as well, because when you're placing the elastic, it's just good to have it marked in as many places as possible. So now I'm going to match this mark with this mark like this. So I have the 2 marks matching here so that you can actually see that. You can see the thread and you can see the chalk. These 2 sides are what I'm going to mark next. So I'm just going to go like this, put a small mark there, open it out, make the mark brighter and longer, fold it like this, and put the mark on the other side as well. And then I'm just going to fold back to make sure that I find that other side. That's going to be over here. If you like this chalk, I actually got this from Texie, which is streamer.com. So you can check them out. I like this a lot because it has chalk powder inside of it and it draws really well. It actually draws better than a regular tailor's chalk in my opinion. And it doesn't break because it's enclosed in this plastic thing. You know, the moment you drop a tailor's chalk, it breaks, and that's one thing I can't stand about it. So with these 4 parts on the elastic, I'm going to match them to the 4 parts on my shorts. But first I have to turn it inside out. I'm going to tuck my pockets in And actually, I think these pockets are a little bit too big, so I might want to tweak them a little bit. But we're going to do that after we add the elastic. So we're going to put this piece right here that joins the two ends of the elastic in line with the center back of the shorts. Put a pin into your fabric, and you're going to take the mark that is opposite to this seam and put that on the center front of your shorts. Pin that into place. Now take this mark on the side and pin that on the side seam, and then take the remaining mark and pin that on the side seam as well. Now our task is going to be to sew the elastic to the shorts. So you're going to be stitching along this area right here, and you can use a zigzag stitch if you want to, or you can use a straight stitch, and you're going to stitch from here going around. But when you're stitching, you want to stretch your fabric or stretch your elastic to meet your fabric. So you're going to start from here, and this will be your next reference point, and you're just going to stretch so that you stretch the elastic out to meet the fabric, and that's going to create a scrunchy effect. And then once you get here, you're going to stretch this part out and do the same thing until you're done all the way around. It really helps to hold your fabric on both sides when you're doing this, because if you just hold on to the elastic and you're sewing, then you're going to be creating too much tension. So while you're holding on to the elastic here, you want to also hold on to it on the opposite end, so that way it can flow through smoothly. This is what my waistband is looking like. This scrunchy effect is very much a vibe, and as you can see, I used a zigzag stitch because for some reason I just feel like it's so much easier to do that rather than to use a straight stitch. So now I'm going to fold my elastic down like this, and I'm going to pin each of the seams. So that's the center back seam right there. So this would be the center front. And you're also going to do the same thing for the sides, but you will notice that that's going to come down on top of your pocket. So when you're doing that, you want to make sure that you find the front of your shorts and put the pocket to the front of your shorts before you actually fold your elastic and pin it down. I'm going to stitch all the way around my elastic at the bottom edge, but this time I won't be using a zigzag stitch. I'm going to use the longest possible straight stitch, which in this case is 4 millimeters. Isn't this gorgeous? Look at that scrunch. Look at the inside. It looks so clean. This is the side that I had to zigzag, and it ended up on the waistband. I'm completely okay with that. But now let's fix the pockets, because the pockets are a little bit too deep and we don't want anything falling out of our pockets too easily. So what you want to do is to measure that distance, or at least measure the size of your hand. My hand is about this much, so what I'm going to do is stitch from here going down. So I'm going to put a pin at this point in my fabric as a marker, and then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. My pin here. So I'm gonna stitch from the base up, same thing on this side. This is a much better depth for the pocket. Now we don't have to worry about anything falling out. The final thing that we have to do is the hem of the shorts. So I'm gonna just turn this back on the wrong side, and the task here is to measure about an inch from the hem and fold like this. And once you have it folded, you're just gonna take your iron and press it flat. And with your pins, you're going to fasten that area that you just pressed. And now we can stitch along this area. So I'm going to stitch on the very edge right here with a straight stitch. I love how the waistband looks. And this is what happens when you make your elastic shorter than the waistline of your shorts. So the shorts was actually the same width. The waistline of the shorts was actually the same width as the hip circumference, but then we also went ahead and minus 4 inches from the elastic that was going around the waist. The hems are looking beautiful. Oh, another thing I must say is that if you want to be able to know the back and front of your shorts perfectly, then you can go ahead and stitch a tag into it. Watch this playlist for more beginner sewing projects.